Today's Spotlight is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, Busey Bank. Busey, your dream, our promise. If you're just tuning in, you're watching Spotlight. I'm your host, Jane Winnett, and joining me now from the Century Walk Corporation is Christine Bloom and Caroline Senator. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to have you here and glad to talk about this topic, public art. So why is public art so important, Christine?
Well, I hope that people recognize that Naperville is a great art community. We have a huge collection here. Public art is important because it enhances our environment. It decorates the landscape. I like to think of it almost like the jewelry of your outfit. So it may not be the bricks and mortar, it may not be the muscle and bones of what makes your community work, but it's the heart and soul.
Nice.
And that's how I like to think of it.
That's a nice way to think about it. I like that. We're accessorizing ourselves a little bit, right? I like that. Talk a little bit, because I know on your website you talk about art with a story and artwork with a story. So what does that mean?
Well, we say art with a story, building community, bridging generations. And what we feel is the stories that are associated with our pieces, they give people a sense of who we are now, who we were then, and how we came to be, how we feel about those stories, what we find important to tell. And some of those stories will in fact last unto generations. I like to think of, we have a piece that's called College, Community, and Country. It's William Schatzer II. He was an orphan, went to North Central College, ended up graduating one of the best running backs in the nation. They put a statue outside the stadium at North Central College, and now it turns out, I heard, that the football team likes to gather at the statue before they go in to dress for the game. That kind of shows you what public art can do and how it can touch people.
It brings people together, right?
Right,
yeah.
right.
And I think also it's very much and I liked the way you said bridging the generations. It also is the sort of history of our community, because certainly in the case of the Century Walk, all of those pieces are really very important in the history of our town, and so for those future generations to learn a little bit, right, about where we've been and where we're going. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's part we're very proud of.
Absolutely. Caroline, talk a little bit about, you've got a lot of public art around town, and you've got some things that are coming out here pretty soon. So talk a little bit about some of the latest installations.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you. So what is very exciting is that we have Harmony Park coming very, very soon. Harmony Park is this amazing sound sculpture park, which will have 4 outdoor musical instruments, which is very cool to have an outside, very fun, very accessible park. It's going to be right in our downtown beautiful Naperville along the Riverwalk. We partnered with the Rotary Club of Naperville to bring it, and it's going to be very fun. The community's going to love it, I think. In addition, we actually just dedicated the courtyard cornerstone in Central Park. We had a wonderful Laughing Lincoln Jubilee in Central Park. And it was a very fun outdoor community county fair. Central Park is actually one of those very key locations, and I don't know how many people know it, but it was the original site of our county courthouse. Way in the olden days when DuPage County was young and before it moved to Wheaton, but it was a very cool part. On a very personal note, one of my very favorite sculptures is Officer Friendly, which of course with Mayor Pradle has been such a beautiful tribute to him, and it's just an amazing tribute in our community that so many people felt that same way, and so many pictures were posted and flowers were put down, and it was such a tribute to it. I think Century Walk bridges and gaps so many ages and people don't even realize how much it means to them until something like this, when immediately everyone recognized, officer-friendly statue in Mayor
Yeah.
Pradle in dedication of him, too.
Well, I think and you make a very good point. And I think what's interesting too is the range of artwork, right? Because as you talk about
Yes.
Harmony Park, that's a very interactive piece of
Exactly.
public
And
art.
musical, too.
Right, absolutely. Versus, the statues, you're not interacting with them physically necessarily, but possibly emotionally, and certainly through Mayor Emeritus Pradle, that has been a very emotional touchstone. Or in the case that you mentioned with the football, a place for those players to kind of gather that's symbolic for them. Talk a little bit about Laughing Lincoln, Christine.
Well, we are so excited about Laughing Lincoln, and a lot of people are, actually, the nationwide. This is going to be such a different statue from what we're used to. Everyone has seen statues of President Abraham Lincoln, and it's usually a very somber President Lincoln with the weight of the Civil War on his shoulders. But Lincoln was actually known as a prankster, a storyteller. He often made his points through jokes and fables, etc. So this is going to be a picture of Lincoln. He's going to be an Illinoisan, so he's going to be a young Lincoln. This is about the time he served with Joe Naper in the Illinois legislature, and he's going to be telling a knee slapper. He's going to be sitting on the cornerstone, maybe perhaps making a little bit of a joke about Naperville losing the county seat or whatever, but he's going to be roaring. It's interesting because the sculpture, there are absolutely no likenesses of Lincoln smiling even. So the sculptor actually had to have a Lincoln impersonator come in and laugh for him so he could catch the likeness of Lincoln laughing. So he'll be seated, the kids can climb up on the cornerstone, sit next to him, put their arm around him. It'll be an accessible Lincoln that will really, hopefully, inspire people to learn a little bit more about the human side of Lincoln.
Yeah, which I think obviously, right, public art, that's part of that inspiration that you talked about, wanting to learn a little bit more about things. Now, where is Laughing Lincoln going to be located?
Laughing Lincoln is going to be right in Central Park, and actually on the cornerstone there at the Jubilee, we dedicated the cornerstone of the courthouse. And then Laughing Lincoln will be sitting on that cornerstone. Laughing Lincoln will be dedicated in December, though, so it'll be a two-part
celebration.
Installation.
Nice.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, Carolyn, you've done a lot of installations. They don't do them by themselves. They cost money. They need funding. So talk a little bit about how you get that funding for these pieces of public art.
A lot of our funding is coming from the generous support of individuals and businesses and the City of Naperville through SECA, and we do appreciate the City of Naperville allowing us to have the opportunity to use funds and for their support of public art too. But we really depend on local people and business leaders who see our vision of the community and want to support the public art to help us make this a reality. We are having on December 2nd this Laughing Lincoln sculpture dedication. We would love it if you would go to our website and learn all about it and join us, because it's going to be an amazing event in celebration of the bicentennial of Illinois.
Wonderful. Well, obviously, you have both done a lot of good work on behalf of the Century Walk. I know that, everybody enjoys seeing the statues, the mosaics. We're all looking forward to the Harmony Park coming very shortly, and look forward to seeing that Laughing Lincoln. That'll be something that none of us have seen before, right? So that'll be good. So thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like to learn more about the Century Walk Corporation, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We're coming right back with more Spotlight.